Hey folks, this is a 2005 GMC Canyon slash Chevy Colorado. It doesn't run. It hasn't run for about 6 months. The story I was told, it belongs to a local farmer. Apparently it broke down on the road in front of his house, and the guy driving it, he just said, forget it. I don't want to fix it. It's not worth putting any money into it. So he called, or he was going to call one of the junk car buyers and, you know, take $100 for it or whatever, and they were going to scrap it. So the farmer decided he was going to buy it and try to fix it himself, which sounds an awful lot like something that I would do. Anyway, they determined that it needs a fuel pump, and they pulled the box off, and they ran into a little bit of a snag. And the old girl's pretty rotten. Tires are bald. The odometer also says 434,000. I'm not sure if that's kilometers or miles, but either way, that's a lot. But the big problem is the fuel pump and the fuel tank. So when they tried to remove the lock ring, the tabs that are molded into the top of the fuel tank, they just turned to dust. There's nothing left, absolutely nothing left you could hook the lock ring to. That's what's left of it. This is just such a piss poor design by GM. I can't believe they ever did this. You know, the fuel pump sits down basically in a bowl that just collects snow and sand and salt, and it just rots these things out. We had a video about a Chevy Tahoe not too long ago. It rotted out the lines on top of the fuel pump. This one, the lines are plastic, but yeah, what did rot out is even worse. So yeah, that's a big problem. And then he also said they can't get the fuel lines off. They bought, I guess, a special tool to do it. Looks like they mangled this one pretty good. So we got to figure out how to get those quick connect fittings off, and then we've got to somehow fix this. Yeah, come on, little guy. Huh. Yeah, he's right. They don't want to come off, do they? Boy, that's unusual. Okay. Try this plastic one. Sometimes these work better. Not in this case. There we go. Hey, we got fuel. There we go. There we go. Well, it might survive. You never know. Well, that's a fun problem. Yeah, the fuel tank's full of water. Yeah, there's just nothing left. So there's a steel insert molded into the plastic, and it has tabs that stick up. The tabs engage the locking ring, and there's just a tiny little, well, not anymore, a tiny little sliver of that one left, and a tiny little sliver of that one left. Yeah, the other problem is it's so corroded that it's actually distorted the plastic. And this is the seal surface here where the O-ring fits. And there's just nothing, it's not flat anymore. So I don't know if that's going to work either. Just make sure this is actually water before you start sucking it with the shop vac. All right, folks, I hit a roadblock with the little GMC Canyon, and some time has passed. So let me catch you guys up. To fix it right, it needs a fuel tank, and I had no luck finding one. Apparently they only used this style tank for 2 years, 2004 and 2005. It's discontinued from GM. There's no parts available. There's no aftermarket parts, as far as I can tell. And everything that I've found used is just as bad as what we already have. I did find one fuel tank in a junkyard about 2 hours to the north of us. It was advertised as being from a Southern, rust-free truck, and they wanted $1,200 for it, and they would not ship it. So, yeah, there's no way this truck's worth $1,200. Anyway, I didn't know what to do. I searched on eBay. There's nothing available, at least nothing that anybody's willing to ship. I'm sure you guys are going to say, your local junkyard in Texas or Arizona or whatever is chock full of good fuel tanks, but they might as well be on the moon if they're not willing to ship them. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know what to do. The customer suggested maybe just putting a boat tank in the box and running it like that. I mean, I guess that would work, but it's probably not a viable long-term solution. I don't know how safe that would be in an accident. Anyway, while I was searching eBay, I came across a repair kit for these GM lock rings. And I figured for 40 bucks plus, I don't know, whatever it would cost to ship it, $18 or something like that, I figured we might as well give it a shot. And yeah, I've got to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. Well, this is the kit that I bought, made by Urson Incorporated. That's the website right there, gastankrenew.net. And basically what it is just a steel ring and some self-tapping screws. These are like, we call them pole barn screws, but they're for holding sheet metal on the outside of a building. They got that rubber seal ring. And then you're supposed to put a non-hardening sealer on the threads. I'll show you guys the process. I did install this once already off camera. Just wanted to make sure it was actually going to work. I think it's going to work out just fine. So the only big problem I had is the tabs are actually so rotten that they've rust jacked, and it's actually pushed the O-ring surface in and kind of tilted it down and kind of distorted it pretty badly. So I couldn't get the O-ring to actually fit nicely in that groove. So I ended up cutting the O-ring with a razor blade. I cut about 1/4 inch out of it, and then I glued both ends of it back together with some super glue. And that's a legitimate repair for O-rings. You can actually buy kits to make your own O-rings, and that's all it is. It's just O-ring stock and some super glue. So the instructions say to use Permatex number 2, which is a non-hardening sealant. I'm using Permatex number 3, which is basically just the liquid form of Permatex number 2. You could probably use like Loctite 515, or you probably could honestly just use plumber's pipe dope. Okay. So on the ring, there's 2 white marks. Those have to be on either side of the outlet lines. Otherwise, you get the screws underneath of these lines and you can't access them. Gotta make sure we get the alignment tab lined up. There it is. Now it's a little different for me because there's already holes that the screws have been threaded through, but they bite into that plastic pretty well. So you just want to snug them up. Alright, that should hold it down. Go. Just be careful. I would not recommend power tools for this job. If you strip those screws out, you're going to be in trouble. Now there is the hole in the plate's big enough you could probably just go up to the next size larger screw, but if you can avoid that, I think it's better. Now the kit also comes with this Seal All sealant, contact adhesive and sealant, which is supposed to be, gasoline and oil resistant. And it says you can pour that around the outside of the ring and also on the inside surface if you want to get a little bit extra seal. I don't want to use this stuff until we're sure the pump's going to work. Just make a big mess if we had to pull it back apart. And this is a no-name, super generic Amazon fuel pump, so we may be back in here sooner rather than later. Yeah, I can understand installing a Bosch or a Delphi aftermarket pump just to save a few bucks, but this thing, it has no brand markings anywhere on the box. The plastic bag inside says Abigail, whatever that means. Yeah, I think I'd stay close to home if it was me. Spoiler alert, I put some gas in the tank and the truck does not run, and the fuel pump also does not run. So yeah, now we get to figure out what's really wrong with it, because the problem was not the fuel pump. And the battery is pretty well wasted. This truck has the 3.5 liter inline 5-cylinder engine, and according to service data, if I turn the key on, the fuel pump should run for 2 seconds, and then it will shut off if it doesn't see an ignition pulse. But our pump does nothing, so let's figure that out. All right, under the hood, fuse 13 and relay 51 are for the fuel pump. So that should be this relay right here and that 15 amp fuse. So when I turn the key on, the test light should come on for 2 seconds. And it does. Okay, let's check the other side of that fuse just to be sure. All right, cool. So that means that the relay is working, the PCM is working, and whatever feeds this thing power is working. So everything up here is fine. Let's go to the back. And we got nothing. Okay, so now we got to figure out if it's a bad power or a bad ground. Well, I ran a positive lead from the battery all the way back to the test light and plugged it into the ground. So we've got a good ground at the fuel pump, but we have no power making it to the pump. So that's the problem. Somewhere between the pump and the fuse box, that wire is broken. Well, if you can believe the wiring diagram, the only connection in that harness is actually right there, which is not very helpful. It goes that far. So I guess we'll split it there and we'll test it and then we'll move on. Fuel pump power supply should be pin A, and then we're hooked up right to the ground on the battery. Let's flip the key on. And we're good. Okay, so like I thought, that was not very helpful. Anyway, somewhere between there and the back of the cab, that wire is broken. Kind of looks like the radiator might be leaking too. Anyway, let's not get distracted. Alright folks, we are not near a lift, so we're going under. Maybe. Oh boy. So there's the harness right there along the frame rail. I don't know if I can show you guys this. Maybe. Look at the harness. See right there? How it rubbed against the bottom of the cab. I think we got a winner. So let me peel that back. Oh God. I'll see if I can get this camera set up somewhere where you guys can see it. And I think we're gonna find our problem right there. Do we see the worn through spot right there? Well, crap. I thought we had it. Apparently we do not. Well, I guess while we're here, we can tap into that wire and see if we have any power. I don't know. That is weird. Negative. We do not. Okay. Well, that's helpful, I guess. At least we know the brake has got to be in front of where we are right now. I'm on the right wire, aren't I? That's the only gray wire that size. Okay, well, we'll keep going, I guess. That sucks. I thought we had it. Sure looked like it. Well, folks, we were so close. All I had to do was pull on that wire. And there's your problem. Broken. Right up here by this other clip. Don't have any idea why. can't see it. There it is, right there. There's the other end of that wire. Oh yeah, we've got some other crusties in here too. So it's a good thing we didn't just patch in a wire, which is what I was about to do. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix this spot in the harness. Well, there's the damage. So there's the gray wire for the fuel pump. It's the only one that's actually broken, but you can see this orange wire, it's just about to go. That purple wire has some damage. Looks like whatever that blue wire is maybe has some damage. So I'm honestly not sure what causes this problem. I've seen this before. I think that the problem is the split loom. It gets filled up with dust, and that dust basically turns into an abrasive, almost like sandpaper. And the ribs of the split loom, they just rub right through the wires anywhere that there's kind of a little bit of tension on them. But it's weird because this harness really isn't tight at all, and it's very well supported. I don't know. It does attach to the engine. I wonder if maybe the engine has a bad mount or something, and it's pulling the harness a little bit, causing that split loom to rub. I'm just going to cut these wires one at a time and splice them back together. Probably on a couple of these I'm going to have to put some short pieces of jumper wire in there. So I'm not going to film that. It's pretty tight down here. I'll bring you guys back when it's done. But yeah, that is the problem. Pretty wild. Alright guys, I got the wires fixed up. I ended up patching, I think, 4 wires, and then I just put liquid electrical tape on the other 2 there. The rest of them look okay. So we'll wrap this up with some Tessa tape, and we should be good to go. Alright folks, it's the following day. We're just about at the moment of truth. I finished the wiring repairs last night. Our no-name fuel pump also included a no-name pigtail. I went ahead and spliced that in. The original one, yeah, it's not in very good shape. See, that insulation is split there. So better to replace it. All the quick connect fittings pushed back on and locked in place, no problem. I think those are going to be just fine. Yeah, I've already tested it. I know that the power is making it to the fuel pump. Let's see if we can get some fuel pressure, and maybe this little guy will run. Well, that sounds promising. Of course, the check engine light's on. God, do we dare read the codes in this thing? Feels like it might be missing a little bit. I don't know. It seems to be running okay. Oh, I spoke too soon. And it's probably gonna take a while for the injectors to clear out. Will it drive? Oh yeah. I don't know, could this thing possibly have 433,824 miles on it? That seems impossible. If that's legit, I believe this is the highest mileage, you know, like car or pickup truck I've ever worked on. I've worked on semis that had, you know, 1.5 million miles, but not a regular pickup truck like this. That's pretty impressive. Man, she's not wanting to idle very good. Man, that is the most annoying chime I think I've ever heard. Okay, well, it runs. It's not too happy about it. I guess we better check the codes. And then I've got to reinstall the sway bar. There's sway bar links down there. Not quite sure why it's off the truck, but so we better put it back. That's the front sway bar. Looks like it comes with 2 new links and 2 new bushings. Now you're probably saying, hey Wes, you're missing the bolts. But that's not true. We're only missing the heads. And they managed to get that one out. So that'll be fun. Usually on these bolts like this through the frame rail, the best thing to do is, well, I'll show you guys. We'll do it together. But we'll drill the end here with a large drill bit right down to the nut, and then we'll try to drill through it with a regular right-hand drill bit. And with any luck, it'll push the bolt up through the nut and into the inside of the frame rail. Then we can fish it out with a magnet or just leave it. And then worst case scenario, if we don't do that or can't do that, we'll just drill it out oversize, and then we'll reach through this hole here in the frame rail and we'll put a nut on the back side. Yeah. Kind of curious about the order of operations here. Why would you pull this sway bar off if the truck doesn't even run? Well, it doesn't matter. It's our problem now. It's tough when they don't break off flat. Well, I think these are M8 bolts, and I just drilled those with a 3/8 drill bit and took them right up to the face of the nut. So now, if we can get them to spin, there's nothing kind of rusty and crusty on this end of the bolt to keep it from turning. Yeah, we're going to try to go through those with a smaller drill bit. I'm going to try a 3/16 first. We'll see how it goes. The good thing about the bolts used in automotive applications, usually they're case hardened and the threads are formed, or roll formed, which means that they're a lot harder on the outside than they are on the inside.
So it's pretty easy to drill up through the middle of them. And it actually kind of helps keep your drill bit centered too.
Better sharpen my bit.
Try that again. Hey, I think that one threaded through. Let's see what we can do here. That'll work. These tap sockets are made by Lyle, by the way. They're fantastic. All right, that one is saved. We got a little off center towards the bottom, but it straightens out at the top. There's plenty of thread there to hold, which is good, because if we had to go up on the top side and put a nut in there, that's kind of a one-time operation. You never get that back apart. Not that it's ever going to come back apart anyway, 434,000 miles, but you know what I'm saying.
I think the audio might have been screwed up for this whole video. I hope not. We've got a problem. That is the correct part number for the sway bar bushings. But that does not look like that. They are substantially different. I don't know what happened there. That's the bag. It's got the same part number. So yeah, I think we're stuck until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, the throttle body appears to be all electronic. I don't think there's any kind of idle air control on this truck. So let's clean the throttle body. See if we can improve that idle. Keep it from dying when you let off. Come on. There we go. So it has this resonator, I guess. Pretty similar to the Trailblazer Straight 6. What was that, a 4.2 liter? Something like that. Even has the same coils, basically. So the way I do this, I'm sure it's the wrong way, but I just turn the key on and then push down the gas pedal. I've got this handy pedal pressing tool. So it's on the floor right now. You can see it's pretty scuzzy in there. So we'll use some throttle body cleaner just on a rag and should fix that right up. Well, that's the stuff right there. We might have to scrape this one a little bit though, it's pretty nasty. Yeah, that's not good. Well, that thing was nasty. Probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. It looks a lot better now. Let's put it back together and see if it clears up the idle. Another thing you got to watch for, under this resonator there's a little hose here. Fits over a nipple on the valve cover. That's for the PCV. Gotta hook that up. Otherwise the engine gets all confused because it can't meter the air coming through the throttle body correctly. I didn't pay close attention, but I'm pretty sure, just based on the amount of dust on that nipple, that one was not hooked up. Well, that works for me. I guess we just kind of put it back, pretend we never saw it. All right, folks. It's been one of those days. But the good news is we got some new sway bar bushings. So same part number, same box, but those look a whole lot more correct. Well, I put the sway bar and the links in place last night while it was still on the lift, so let's grab a creeper. Like so, and we'll sneak under there and stuff those bushings in. Oh, I suppose I better get the other side started before I just... Yeah, I better. Cross your fingers. Cool. It's not even stripped out. Well, we better tighten that hose clamp while we're here. See, it's weeping a little bit. Sure, that's not original. That's why they use those constant tension clamps, because you know, in our climate where you get huge temperature variations every day, as soon as it gets cold, those things start leaking. Well, folks, this seems to work. I mean, good enough anyway.
I'm not going to use this seal-all sealant though. I tried it out. It's kind of just real runny, and I think we'll just make a big mess out of it. So what I'm going to do is just put some RTV around the outside of the ring. I just want to keep water from going underneath the ring and continuing to rot out whatever's left of those tabs.
All right, folks, I think that's it. We got a rotten 2005 GMC Canyon with 434,000 miles on it back on the road where it belongs. Yeah, I don't know. We towed it in, we're gonna drive it out. That's a win, in my opinion. I imagine there was never anything wrong with the original fuel pump itself, but obviously that rotten lock ring was going to be a problem eventually. You know, you're going to have evap leaks, and if it gets bad enough, you could actually get water running into the fuel tank, and that's not a good situation. So that had to be dealt with, you know, eventually anyway. The fuel pump, the original fuel pump, we probably could have reused it, but we can't use it now. It's been sitting in water for 6 months or whatever. It's no good. Yeah, we can't drive it. It has no license plates, no insurance, no tail lights. The tires are bald. They're also really badly flat spotted. But it runs. It drives. It stops. It's got a front sway bar. So I'm going to send it home. I did read the codes. It had a circuit code for the fuel pump and a circuit code for the canister vent valve, which is also in that same harness. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.